Today I am going to be rereading my statement of purpose for my college application, for my master's application. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you're here, and I feel like this is going to take me into the past and reflect on what made me to apply to grad school in the first place. I applied to a Master's of Architecture at a lot of schools, Harvard being one of them, where I'm at right now, along with a few other Ivy Leagues. This essay got me into 7 schools with a partial or full ride, half of them being Ivy Leagues or at the level of Ivy Leagues for School of Architecture. So I'm excited to see what I had to say, and also see what I would change if I were to redo it today. I wrote this in 2020, 2021 with a few edits, so yeah, there's probably some room for growth, that's for sure. I'm just gonna start with the first paragraph and read it out loud to you guys. I did this, of course, back when I first wrote it, so if you wanna see that old video, you can click on here and see me reading it and giving you tips and advice for writing your own personal statement. You're not like, who is this girl trying to tell me how to write a personal statement? Is she an expert? No, I'm not an expert. I am just a student who also wrote personal statements, and I guess a little bit of backup is that I got into most all of the schools that I applied to. I also do one-on-one coaching now if you do need additional help. Okay, let's read. Imagine a 21-room house made of stone and mortar, surrounded by deep red sand and embedded in a forest. My family's life began in this home, which my father built in Imo State, Nigeria. When my father immigrated to the US in the 80s, he was determined to support families through his real estate practice. Just 5 years ago, he led me into our current home in the US. I remember standing in what would soon be my first non-shared room. It was simply framed and incomplete, but I was overwhelmed by the grand effect it would soon have on my family's life. Aww. I still love this first paragraph. I would add a bit more imagery and maybe tell a story right away from the beginning. I actually don't encourage people to use the word imagine. I encourage them to just tell the story, and allow the audience to just be ingrained in the story right from the beginning. But yeah, I do love that it is telling a really important part of who I am, and it's still such an important story in my life right now, especially my dad doing real estate. And if you know what's going on in my life right now, I'm transitioning to real estate and working a lot more in real estate and affordable housing. So this is really, really awesome. Some things that I might say instead is I might start with a question, maybe imagine, or where do you imagine life beginning? And that could then lend itself to a lot of my interests in realizing that people don't get to choose the life that they are born into or live into, and I'm hoping to change that through my design thinking and now real estate work. So that could be something to do as well. Start with a question, maybe more of a poem. That's also my writing style these days. It's shifted a little bit more, so it is a bit more poetic and story-like. So something like that I might have edited a bit, but otherwise the overall theme of this I love. Next paragraph. My father's personal connection to homes and my experience standing in my own room for the first time motivated me to join Habitat for Humanity while pursuing my Bachelor's of Science in Architecture. During my first Habitat build, I served alongside the future homeowners, a previously homeless couple. As they walked into their fully framed home for the first time and stood in their soon-to-be living room, tears welled up not only in their eyes, but in mine as well. I knew from then on that my life and profession would be fixated on serving the unique needs of others through architecture. Also a very apt paragraph. I'd say that it's funny that I'm a lot more into the real estate side of things now, and I'm actually working with Habitat again right now. So it's super cool how life happens like that. So I am serving the unique needs of others through real estate, I would say. Nice that nothing has really changed in how I would maybe portray this, because that story is actually something I shared that story on LinkedIn recently, when I was talking about my new work with Habitat for Humanity. So again, this is a great paragraph, I'd still say, and it begins to tell that story that I kind of wish I told a little bit earlier. So this is great, and I would recommend that too. If you do have a story to share, but you want to kind of set it up with what your interests are, and your professional career goals first, there's also room to tell stories throughout your essay. So not every essay looks the same. My dedication to Habitat led me to become the Advocacy and Education Chairperson for my university student chapter. While serving for 2 years, I led a committee of students resolute to serve low-income families. We ideated bi-monthly awareness panels and on-campus builds. In the summer of 2018 and 2019, I led a group of students to advocate for affordable housing policy in Capitol Hill. I honed my lobbying skills. I spoke directly to representatives, and their agreement to work alongside Habitat volunteers. So this was pretty good. It's just talking about who I am and the skills that I've grown in what I've done. That's something that's really important in your essay, and I remember bringing that up the first time I recorded this video. It's really important for you to not just tell people what you do, but within that ingrain what you are actually growing into. Like, what are the skills that you've now developed, or what are the interests you've now developed? What are the things that you know you need to work on? That's why I really encourage nowadays to include something of like a missed opportunity. Well, you could call it a failure, but you could also say that it's just something that had happened in your walk, in your journey, that is actually very vital to who you are now. So they know that you're self-aware enough to know that you need improvement in certain areas, but it was really important for you to still experience that failure or that missed opportunity. So that's something that I really encourage people to include, and I think that one of these paragraphs could have been that. My next few paragraphs talk about my passion for serving at-risk communities, and how that has grown out of my work with the Catholic University Design Collective. I remember that project, really awesome. And then I also talked about an internship in architecture that elevated my design thinking while also talking about the research that I've done and how that directly connects to my hope to do research for vulnerable populations. So again, it's always like teetering on what I've learned through what I've done, not just, I just did this and that is that. Or even just telling people my skills. You kind of get to hear the story of my skills in my writing. I'll actually read that one about the architecture internship. I iterated numerous design models for local housing complexes, collaborated with students renovating their school cafeteria, and worked as head social media coordinator for the firm. I interviewed professionals across the field, wrote and published 5 project articles, and maintained the firm's Instagram and LinkedIn profiles. I am most proud of my publication titled Impact Design for Senior Living. This enhanced my research capabilities and further solidified my interest in analyzing best practices to support vulnerable populations. Yeah, sharing what I've done, but it's more so like who I'm becoming through the work that I'm doing. And this is really a paragraph. Maybe I would also cut down on the wording. I feel like it's very wordy, and just to simplify it, because again, admissions only has so much time and they're skimming your paper. So if you have those key words, key elements, key skills, you're most likely going to catch their attention without like the big words that I kind of included within here. So a few things I would encourage you to do. And then I'll just skip to my last paragraph, which is where I now connect it to the university, and it's too specific on here, so I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I basically go into what the school could do for me, like the educational aspects and the extracurriculars that I know I want to engage in, but I most hone in on the things that I will do for the university. And that is a big point in your essays that I believe everyone should have. Like, what is something that you see that is missing, that you know that you can fill as an individual, whether it's an organization that you can start at the school, or it's a voice that you have that isn't there. It's a research topic that you know you haven't seen before. So it's not just finding like the professor to work with, because that professor could leave the next year, or that club even could be dissipated. But if you're like, I am motivated to also encourage the starting of a new club, or to encourage a club to keep going and add different aspects to the school, you are absolutely an asset to that university, and they have another reason to consider you. So that's something I definitely made sure I did. I even include a bit of the city and why I would choose the city, and that kind of, you can, obviously they're gonna be like, you can go to other schools in our city, but there's a really important part of like, you wanna be a part of the greater community at the university as well. So yeah, guys, that's my essay. Rereading it is kind of crazy. I'd say that I'm grateful that a lot of the things that I did write about have come to fruition, and they are so honestly me. Like, I was very authentic in my writing, and I see that through. And even here, I wrote that I would start a club, and I helped to start that club actually. I wrote that I would get involved in another organization, and I have gotten involved. And it's funny how those little things I all thought connected me to architecture, and they do, of course they do, but they've kind of landed me in this place of real estate, which I'm really enjoying in the moment. And the combination of both design thinking and kind of the practical steps to urbanism and community development is really cool. So I hope that you guys can either reread your essays from a few years ago and say the same, that you were authentically yourself and you've made it through, or you can now sit down and start your essay for your college application or your master's application and or PhD application and say that you are going to be authentically yourself in that writing. I want to encourage you. You can do this. I know the essay is probably one of the most overwhelming parts because it's talking about your entire life and your entire future, but you can do it. I think the song that I sang at the end of that first video was This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. I'm obsessed with The Greatest Showman, and it's true. This essay is who you are. This essay is who you're becoming, and it's actually an exciting piece that you can keep with you forever. Like, I'm definitely going to be rereading this in the future and hope that it only stays it seems even more true to who I've become. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for following along in this crazy journey. That was one of the first videos I ever posted here on YouTube, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for this community, and I'm grateful that I can support you in your application journeys and your life goals and professional goals. I've got one more year at Harvard and you're coming along with me. So I hope you stick around and subscribe and let me know what you want to see next. Check out my website also. I have so many freebies on how to write your personal statement, resumes, things like that. So I am here as a resource to you. Let me know what you need and I'll try to support you as I can. But I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Back with the video. This is me. Look out, because here I come. To the beat I drum. I am bruised, I make no apologies. This is me.